What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. In this video, we are going to be reviewing the LEGO Star Wars 2024 Advent Calendar. Now, I have done some mini reviews of this during each day. I kind of review each miniature build or minifigure, but this is going to be a much more in-depth review. So let's get started, and we are going to be doing this in order of each day. So let's get right into it. First, though, we're going to take a look at the box itself. This is the inside of the box. You can see we got that ion cannon on Hoth. We got a miniature AT-AT, Darth Vader's castle. A bunch of the tiny builds are shown here, and usually the Advent Calendar features Hoth as the planet since it is snowy and whatnot. We have the shield that they used on Hoth. I forgot what it's called. I just know that it puts up the shield around the planet. We got some cliffs over there on the side, and of course we have every single day with their numbers on them that you can just open up by pushing in these tiny flaps, and then opening up. They got a picture, of course, of what you're supposed to build, and the bags come inside there as well. Then on the ground, this is where you're supposed to kind of put all your minifigures and builds. We've got some of these craters. We've got some boxes over there. It's very, very well done. They included a bunch of tiny terrain details, which is really, really nice to see. Moving on to the back of the box, we've got basically a showcase of the entire box itself as you would have it, with some of the flaps open, some of the minifigures standing on it. We've got the AT-AT there. It's being pulled down by these sort of Christmas lights, which are attached to the X-Wing, strangely enough. Not a snow speeder. We've also got a Christmas tree over there and a Lego.com link. And moving on to the front of the box, we've got that classic gift thing that you get most of the time on Advent calendars. Another representation of some of the stuff, some presents, a Christmas tree, and of course, this thing saying Advent calendar, 24 gifts, a warning, the 25-year anniversary logo, and of course the normal stuff that you have, set number, name, age, suggestion, and of course the piece count. The sides of the boxes are pretty much normal on what you would see from a Lego set. They've got these nice little Lego pieces of this, I don't know, this is a blue color, but it's kind of an aqua blue, maybe? Aqua green. It looks very, very good. Some more gift wrapping that connects to the one in the front. Some more of that aqua blue bricks. And then we've got this dark blue color representing the sky that wraps all the way around on the box up to the top, where we get these aqua blue bricks again. So the box is very, very nice looking. And now we are going to get into the builds and the minifigures. And the first miniature build we're going to be taking a look at is this tiny little X-Wing. It is, I don't know if this is a Resistance X-Wing or a Rebellion X-Wing. This tan piece on the front kind of throws off the color scheme. Just to put it into perspective, this is an X-Wing from an earlier Advent calendar that was a Rebellion X-Wing. I believe this is one of the ones used in the battle in the Death Star. It is slightly bigger than the one you get in this Advent calendar, and they used a different design for the wings as well as for the cannons, and it's just a different design altogether, so they really kind of changed it up a bit, which is pretty nice to see. I do kind of like the design on this one a bit better. It's more compact, and it just puts it more in scale with some of the other miniature builds. We've got this translucent slope piece on the front along with this blue stud, which I suppose represents a droid, most likely R2-D2, so I would assume that this is a Rebellion X-Wing. All in all, pretty good build, and most of these miniature builds are in scale with each other, which is very, very nice because it makes them very easy to use with each other in stop motions. Next up, we've got the first minifigure that you get in the set, Princess Leia. There is unfortunately no leg printing, it's just plain white legs. She does have this blue Christmas sweater. It's got this sort of Hoth representation. It's got an AT-AT, a snow speeder, and a turret. And then she's got the shield generator, a tauntaun, and another snow speeder on the back. And then she's got this pink cup, her normal hair, and a double-sided face with a happy face and, of course, an angry face. So all in all, a very, very solid figure. I'm not a huge fan of the Christmas sweaters. I really wish they would just have the normal figures, because some of these figures that you get with Christmas sweaters, you can't, it's hard to get them anywhere else. Like, we've had a couple in the past that have Christmas sweaters that it would be nice to just get the normal figure, such as Emperor Palpatine, and there was also another figure in the set with a Christmas sweater that I really would have preferred to just get the normal minifigure. Next up is this TIE Fighter. Now, I don't completely agree with the build for this TIE Fighter. As you can see, we got this TIE Interceptor from another Advent calendar. It's got this plain gray stud on the top, a red stud on the back for the engine, and translucent studs for the cockpit. they only did one translucent stud for the cockpit for this one. There is really not a lot of cockpit detail, but the wings, the blue, gray, and black color scheme looks really, really good. So it does slightly make up for it, but you can clearly see, if you look at it, that there is stuff lacking on the cockpit, which is really, really sad to see. And something I forgot to mention that this is, of course, in scale with the X-Wing, which is really, really nice to see, because you can kind of include these two in a stop motion and just have them fighting against each other, which is really, really nice. Next up, we've got a Super Battle Droid. We started getting these this year, I believe, and it is a very, very, very nice figure. I have about 10 of these now, including this one. Very, very well done. I love the gray metallic color. We started getting more of these this year, I believe, in the Clone Trooper and Droid Battle Pack, and it's really great to be able to add another one to my collection. Unfortunately, it does follow the same design as the other ones, so we have not gotten a rocket hand yet, which is pretty sad to see. Hopefully they make one with a rocket arm in the future. They did do that in the past for some of the Clone Wars sets, but now it's very hard to get your hands on those guys anymore. So I'm really hoping they do a remake of that and make a new one of these guys with a rocket arm sometime in the future. Next up, we've got this miniature AT-AT build, which I don't believe is in scale with the X-Wing. It may be in scale with the X-Wing. I don't think it is, though, since the back of this is supposed to fit like quite a bit of snowtroopers, and the cockpit of this fits only one TIE Fighter pilot. It's not precisely in scale, but it is a very, very nice set. It's a bit tricky to get the legs in the perfect pose so that it's just kind of very, very clean looking, but eventually I was able to get them in the perfect pose. I really like the slopes on here. That was very well done. The head feels a bit lacking. It was just this joint piece, as well as this piece that goes on sideways and a slope. So it does feel slightly lacking. It was just made up of 3 pieces, very compact. But all in all, I think it gets the job done, and the legs, they did really, really well with the legs. I really like this 2x1 with these double clip connectors at the end. Those are very, very useful, and they did a really great choice using those for the legs, as it made it very easy to attach them, and they have a lot of posability. So all in all, it was really well executed. Next up, we've got a Y-Wing. Okay, so I have a couple of problems with this miniature build. First off, this yellow piece on the front is 2x1. Everything else is just 1 stud wide, and this just kind of widens out the front, but it seems like it does it too early, because then it doesn't follow along here. It just kind of thins back up, which makes it look really, really weird if you're looking at it like this, or even like this. Sometimes it really just makes it look weird. Other than that, they did great with the gray, yellow, and white color scheme, and the engines are done really well. Something that I really wish could have been added, though, was putting some translucent pink studs on the ends for the engine pieces, though that would have been really, really cool to get. But other than that, it's a very good Starfighter, and it is, I believe, in scale with the X-Wing. Next up, we've got this mini kit from the LEGO Star Wars games. This is the collectible that you can get in them. I've never played the games. I've played them a couple times, but I haven't played through all of them, and I haven't played through the fullness of one of them yet, so I've barely ever played them, so I have never seen this in my life. I was very, very confused, and if I had not heard earlier that there was going to be a mini kit in here, I would not have known what this was. It kind of looks like a trash can, which is what someone said on one of my earlier shorts, and I mean, I will not lie, it kind of does. If you don't know what it is, you might mistake it for a trash can, but it's a really cool Easter egg to get in here. Next up, we've got a miniature Jabba's sail barge. We did get the UCS Jabba's sail barge this year, which is really, really cool. And this is another pretty well done. I really like the use of slope pieces in here. The sails are a bit weird looking from certain angles. And then, of course, this plate on the bottom is sort of sticking out. It makes it look kind of weird from this angle, but you can't really see it if you put it like that. All in all, pretty good miniature build, but it does look slightly weird. Next up, we've got one of the most classic LEGO Star Wars fighters of all time, the Millennium Falcon. This is a very compact Millennium Falcon compared to the last one that I got from an advent calendar. It's a bit taller, and it's much more thinner, but it is pretty much the same length. They did really, really great with the engine. The engine looks really good, but like Jabba's sail barge, and this is a problem that a couple of the miniature builds in this set have. They have these plates that are like sort of like the core, the base of the build. They hold it all together, but they're sticking out at the bottom. So if you look at them like this, it looks really, really weird. But luckily, most of them have stuff on top covering it, so you can't really see it if you put it from that angle. All in all, this Millennium Falcon, it looks really, really good. Next up, we've got the Ahsoka Tano minifigure. Now, I've said this before in some of my reviews. I really, really love the new frosted lightsaber look that they're using. And for white lightsaber blades especially, it looks really, really good. The arm printing on this figure is amazing as well. And I believe this is a reused mold. I think they just reused the mold that they had from the older Clone Wars Ahsoka. They may have made a new one. And I think this is a new face print as well. At first, I thought they had reused the one that they used from the recent Clone Wars Ahsoka. But after looking at it more carefully, I'm pretty sure they made a new mold. The torso and leg printing also looks very, very good, as does the torso printing on the back as well. And she does have a double-sided face, so it's just kind of normal face and then angry face. All in all, it's a really, really great minifigure. This comes in 2 other sets, I believe, the T6 shuttle and then the Battle on Parade as well. It's a very, very great minifigure, and I'm really happy to get my hands on it. Next up, we've got this Republic Acclamator. This is not a Venator, okay? They're 2 different things, okay? An Acclamator is slightly smaller, and it looks slightly different from a Venator. A Venator just kind of has a complete triangle shape, but this kind of cuts in a bit and then comes back out, and it is, of course, smaller than a Venator. There is a mini-scale version of a Acclamator coming out in January, I believe. I believe it's January. Anyway, this looks very, very well done. However, you can see some traces of the white pieces in the middle. And then, of course, like I said earlier, they've got that plate problem on the bottom. But from this angle, which is the angle that you're supposed to see it from, it looks really, really good. Next up, we've got this shuttle thingy. I don't know what this is, guys. I really don't. I'm sorry. This might be the Bad Batch shuttle. I thought that's what it was at first, but I'm pretty sure that's not. In which case, I assume it must be an Imperial shuttle, but those are usually white, so I was kind of confused. It's not the Inquisitor Sky, since that is black. I really, really like what they did with the wing pieces on here. They used 2 of these plate pieces connected together to give it a unique shape, and of course, it's got an illegal building technique on the top, and this clip piece is probably going to break in the near future. There is a lot of stress being put on it by this piece. They got a nice black cockpit, and the back is pretty plain. There is no engine, unfortunately, shown on the back. All in all, a pretty solid build. I just would like to know what it actually is. I'll probably have to do some research on that later. Next up, we've got this ship, and so the thing about this advent calendar is that there are a lot of builds that if you are not a older Star Wars fan, you will not know what they are. Well, not exactly an older Star Wars fan, but if you're not a Star Wars fan that actually, like, follows along with Star Wars. In which case, this is a Jedi Attack Shuttle, I believe that's what it's called. This was a Clone Wars set. This was about $90 when it first came out, I believe. Had a bunch of exclusive minifigures, had about like 2 or 3. The engine on this is really, really well done, and it does kind of have a back cockpit, I believe, due to that black transparent piece in the back. The red and white color scheme looks really, really good, and of course, it's got the cockpit in the front. The wings do spin like a Mandalorian starfighter in the actual set, but unfortunately, they can't really incorporate that into a mini build, so the wings do not spin, guys. Sorry. When I was building this, I thought it was the T6 shuttle, but then after finishing it, I realized that this was the Jedi Attack Shuttle, so very, very cool to get this included. And something that someone had put in comments on another review of the Advent Calendar is that LEGO was basically, in celebrating 25 years of Star Wars, they were doing one different year for every build. So they were kind of having the X-Wing from day 1 being the first year of LEGO Star Wars, which was that the X-Wing was the first LEGO Star Wars set to come out or something. I don't know. But each of these builds holds a different meaning, so the fact that we're getting a bunch of Clone Wars builds in these days coming before this, such as the Ahsoka, the Acclamator, this is kind of the time period when all the Clone Wars sets were coming out, so that's something that someone pointed out that is a pretty cool Easter egg. Next up, we've got another thing that I'm not 100% sure what it is. At first, I thought this was a Mandalorian starfighter, but it doesn't really exactly look like one. That's the thing. Like, the wings, these parts coming out, this makes it look like a Mandalorian Starfighter. Everything here, including this tooth piece on the front, but these front parts, like, these should be turned like this, not like this. It just makes it look kind of weird and kind of throws you off when you're building it, because at first I thought it was a Mandalorian Starfighter, and now I'm not so sure. It does look really, really good, though, and it doesn't really have that plate problem, but it still looks kind of weird on the bottom. Next up, we've got a 501st Clone Trooper minifigure. These guys are, the new design looks really, really good, and I'm not talking about the helmet hole design, guys. I do not approve of that, okay? This guy isn't exactly going to fit in with my other 501st Clone Troopers, since I got them all from the 501st Battle Packs, and they don't have helmet holes. So this guy is going to stand out a bit, but he's a very, very nice addition to my Clone Army collection. Next up, we've got the Ghost, and from this angle, it looks kind of weird due to this translucent black piece kind of sticking out, but they did a very, very good job on the sides of this ship, showing the escape pods as well as the cockpits, and then the yellow, green, and red blend in there very, very well. The engines also look super good, but unfortunately, like I said earlier, the plate problem, very, very sad, but all in all, it's a very, very, very good build and a really nice inclusion. Well, guys, remember when I said earlier there was a minifigure that had a Christmas sweater that I would have just liked to get the regular minifigure? Well, this is that minifigure. It's Luke Skywalker. I really like the new hairpiece. I think it really, really fits him. And his Christmas sweater is a Tatooine sweater. It's got his aunt and uncle's farm on it. And on the back, we've got a sand crawler for the Jawas. At first I thought it was the same design as an earlier Christmas sweater minifigure that we've gotten, which was Poe Dameron. We got him, I don't know, maybe 4 years back in another advent calendar. Like I said, the frosted lightsaber looks great. Unfortunately, there's no leg printing, which is really, really sad, but this is a pretty good figure nonetheless. Next up, we've got what has to be one of my favorite builds of this set, and it is a U-Wing. I really, really, really like this build. The engines look really, really good. Cockpit also looks good, and the wings on the front look amazing. It does have the same thing as the Mandalorian Starfighter, where it's this 3x3 plate on the bottom, so it does look slightly messy, but you can't even see it from that angle. And the reason I love this so much is because this comes from one of my favorite Star Wars movies. Rogue One was amazing. You guys should definitely go and watch it right now if you haven't. And if you're a true Star Wars fan, you've watched it because it came out a long, long time ago. Next up, we got Yoda Starfighter. Now, this is one of the weirder micro builds of the set. This dome piece looks a bit big for the cockpit, and if you look closely, you can see the bright green piece through there. The R2 also makes this kind of look pretty tall. They did a pretty good job with the engine, but you can see some more light green pieces poking through there as well. The wings look pretty nice, but it just looks kind of weird, not as well done as some of the other miniature builds of this set. Next up, we have another minifigure, which I am very, very happy got included. I don't usually buy advent calendars for the minifigures, but I mean, this one, like, if you buy it for the minifigures, like, I won't be mad at you. Although you can get Ahsoka and this Praetorian Guard in cheaper sets. This Praetorian Guard looks really, really good. This is one of the newer models that they're using for the Mandalorian sets. At first, I thought his body was the same as the Sith Trooper. I'm not sure if it is. It does look quite similar, but his legs are definitely not. They've got this robe printing on them, which is really, really cool. His back torso printing is quite plain, and underneath his helmet, which also looks really good, and this is a new mold, I believe, it's just plain red. Normally, they do plain black for these types of minifigures, so I'm curious to see why they did plain red, but either way, looks really good, and his staff especially is a really cool aspect of this minifigure. I'm very, very happy to get this minifigure in the set, and I will probably end up getting the set that he comes in, which is, I believe, Paz Vizsla versus Moff Gideon comes with 2 of these guys, so that will up my collection of them to 3, and it is a really, really cool minifigure. Next up, we've got another miniature build that we have gotten before, and this is Darth Vader's castle. Now, this one looks a lot more menacing. It's just completely black with that red translucent piece at the front, but if you look at it from the back, it looks slightly weird since you can see the bright red and then these gray studs peeking out. This is the older one that we had, This one kind of gave the look of the lava planet that is on, since you've got the orange piece right there, some more like rocky pieces, and it did have the same problem as this one with that red piece and then those gray pieces on the back, but something that this old one had that this one does not is this mini TIE fighter, which is pretty cool to see. All in all, they decided to go with a change of design for this one. It looks much more menacing with all that black. And from the front angle, which you are supposed to display it at, it looks very good. Next up, we've got the Razor Crest. Now, this is also another build that I have another version of. Both of them have the same plate problem, which is that the plate is sticking out at the bottom, which is true for a lot of miniature builds in this advent calendar. It's a problem that they can't really solve, so we can't be too harsh on LEGO for that. They did downsize this slightly. It's not quite as long, but it is taller. They used basically the same cockpit design, which looks really good. Basically the same wing design. Everything is basically the same, but they changed a bit of the colors and they downsized it a bit. The yellow on this newer one is much more pronounced. There is no yellow on the old one, so I don't know why they chose not to go with the yellow on the old one. I don't believe the yellow design is that apparent in the big Razor Crest. It's kind of just like a drawing. It's not too obvious, but I do honestly prefer the look of the new one to the older one. Next up, another miniature build that was very well done in my opinion is Luke's Landspeeder. This literally, like, I have no qualms with this at all. It looks amazing. The engines are well done. The front is well done with these slope pieces. It looks really good. Cockpit is well done. It's got a mini C-3PO and mini Luke. It's so perfect and it's so good, which is so nice to see. Last but not least, we've got the T6 shuttle, and the one problem with this miniature build, and I'm going to just show you guys around this and see if you can see it. We've got the engines, we've got the cockpit, we've got the wings. Everything on this looks really good, except for the bottom. It looks a bit platey, but you can't even really see it. And the plate look does look, it kind of fits in with everything else. And if you guys haven't noticed the problem by now, I'm going to show you. It's these two gray studs that are just peeking out. They could have just put another white plate. Why didn't they? This problem actually makes me really upset, because they could have easily covered that up. I'm not sure if that's supposed to show something from the actual set. I haven't taken too close of a look at the actual set. I do want to pick it up sometime, but those two gray studs just make me so angry. And I do feel as if the front could have been put more in a triangle shape, but they did have to keep it accurate with the set. And I believe the cockpit is in more of a circle shape, which is why they had that plate on the bottom. But those two gray studs, I can't get over them. But all in all, it's pretty well done, besides the two gray studs. Now we're going to get into my final thoughts for this advent calendar. They did a really good job with most of the miniature builds. They usually do. It's cool to kind of take a look at years past and just take a look at those miniature builds compared to what we get now. And honestly, I think they've improved, and I think the minifigures in this advent calendar were really well chosen. I really like the minifigures. The miniature builds are great. Honestly, I would highly recommend you go out and get this advent calendar. This definitely isn't one of the best ones that we've gotten, but it is really good. Make sure to like and subscribe if you guys like this video, and I will see you all in the next one.